Our rotations lesson is going to be taught in 2 different videos. As we're going to start, we're going to take 2 days to teach it. We're going to start off with just about the origin, rotating about the origin, and then the second video is going to be about a point that's other than the origin. First, let's start off about our rotations. Let's look at our warm-up. For a big finish in a marching band performance, Mr. Gorton arranges the band in a triangle formation. Then the triangle begins to rotate clockwise. This is going to be a very important thing to pay attention to. Does it say clockwise or counterclockwise? Talk more about it in a little bit. Around the pinpoint like a pinwheel. The center of rotation today is going to be at the vertex located at 0, 0, which is the origin. It's going to be all today, about 0, 0. All right, and so we're going to take a look at what they want us to do is we're going to choose these 3 points of the pre-image and call them A, B, and C. So that's what we're going to list here. They already have B filled in for us, so let's look at A. We're seeing that A is located at the origin, 0, 0. C is located at, these are counting by 1, very small, but it's going to be at it's going to go by 2s, I think. So 2, and so we're halfway through. If you look at it where it's in line, gosh, this is really hard to see, and I apologize. It's halfway between. We need to see these are counted by 2, 4, 6, 8. They're not 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're halfway between the 2 and 4, giving us at positive 3. And then up here, it's going to be straight on between 8 and 12. This is going to be a 10 because, again, going by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And we're going to compare it to the pre-image, the pre-image to the image. So let's look at our image, the primes. A is at 0, 0. B prime, we're over here at positive 10. We're up 1.5 units, which will give us 3 because we're by 3. So we're at 10 on the on B prime, and we are at positive 3 on the y-axis. C prime, we're at positive 10 on the x, and we're at negative 3 on the y. So let's see what happened here. Let's take a look first at, let's look at B because don't ever look at the ones that are on the origin, don't look at those because it's not going to change when you're rotating around the origin. And you'll see in later on lessons, I'll be, with dilation and whatnot, I'll be saying look for coordinates that aren't on the axis at all. So let's take negative 3 and 10. And let's take a look at B prime. B prime was at 10, 3. And let's also look at C and C prime. C here is at 3, 10. C prime is at 10, negative 3. What we want to see here is 2 things have occurred. Just looking at B and B prime, okay? B and B prime only. We notice that the 3 shifted to the y and the 10 shifted to the x. So the y's and the x's switched places. But you also need to notice something else. Positive 10 stayed positive 10. Negative 3 became a positive 3. So that negative switched. So your x coordinate switched signs. So not only did the x and the y switch, but we need to throw a little negative in front of that x in the rule so that we can see we need to change the sign of the x coordinate. You're going to notice the exact same thing with C prime. They switched places, and the x went from a positive 3 to a negative 3, so the x switched signs. So the rule here is your xy is going to turn to, we're going to switch the x and the y around, that's what happened, and then the x coordinate is going to change signs. So we're going to throw that little negative in front. Now, what we need to see here is they told us here that up in the top it said clockwise. This is going to be a 90-degree clockwise rotation. What we need to understand is clockwise, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, clockwise is the opposite of counterclockwise. So remembering that a full circle is 360 degrees, if we go 90 one direction, it's 270 the other direction. So let's take a look at this. All right, we have a turn around a fixed point. This fixed point right here is the center of rotation. And it's going to be through an angle of x degrees. So you're going to have these different degree measurements, which we'll get into in the bottom part. Rotations are expressed in terms of degrees, and they can either be clockwise or counterclockwise. So we take a look at which direction we're going here. Okay, we start at 12, we go in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, the way the clock moves. Guys, look at the clock. Look at that red second hand and see which direction it's moving. That is the way the clock goes. That is clockwise. Counter means opposite. We're going to get into in a few chapters about counter examples. Opposite. Remember, counter is opposite. So counterclockwise is opposite of clockwise. So if you notice that you're going the opposite direction as that red second hand on the clock, this is going to be your counterclockwise. Taking a look at the rules, we already saw one. What we're going to notice is your counterclockwise and clockwise are going to be opposites. So here, what we wrote earlier, 90 degrees clockwise, counterclockwise, CCW, one quadrant counterclockwise is going to wind up being clockwise 1, 2, 3 quadrants. Okay, so that's 90 degrees each. 90 one way is 90 plus 90 plus 90, 270, the opposite direction. So here we saw that our 90 degrees up during our in our warm-up up there is your X and Y. You're going to change Y, or we went clockwise on that one. This is going to be our rule right here. These, it's a matter of, there is a way of using patty paper as well, but if you're at home, unless you get some patty paper from your teacher, I will show a quick example of that in a little bit as well, but applying the rules is one of the best ways to do this. 180, all you're going to do is you're just going to change the sign of both. That's it. Nice and easy. Just change your positives to negatives, your negatives to positives. Don't move the coordinates, or don't move your X and Y. And then your 270 counterclockwise or 90 clockwise, what we did up here, you're going to switch them. So you're going to have your Y first, but you're going to change the X. These are the hardest rules to remember, okay? But that's why the patty paper can be helpful as well. Due to the nature of the quadrants, if it's not specified, if the direction does not tell you clockwise or counterclockwise, you're going to go counterclockwise because that's the way the quadrants go, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if it just says 90 degrees, always go counterclockwise on that one. All right, so on our next page, we just have 3 quick examples to take care of here. Let's look at the first one. We are going to take point A, which is at -3, +2, and we're going to rotate it all directions that we just talked about. Let's go ahead and plot point A, -3, +2. Here's your A. We're going to kind of get an introduction to your primes as well whenever you have, I know it says just primes over here, but since we're going to have it on the same one, I'm going to talk to you about double prime and triple prime in advance. We're going to talk about it more in a few lessons, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys about it now. First, let's go ahead and look at our 90-degree counterclockwise rotation. So your counterclockwise, if we look back at our rules, your 90 degrees counterclockwise was going to be a -y, +x. So here we have our rule, -y, +x. So we want to take these 2 coordinates and we want to switch them. So we're going to have 2 and then the -3, and then take a look at which one changed. The y changed. So this +2 is going to become a -2. So we're at -2, -3 right here. And let's go ahead and label that A prime. Now I'm going to show you the patty paper. Okay, we can apply the rule, which here the rule is going to be, we take a look at 180 degrees. All we're doing is we're simply changing the sign of both the X and the Y. Okay, but I want to show you how we can do this with patty paper very, very quickly. If you lay this patty paper, again, you can get some from your teacher. If your geometry teacher does not have any, come find me, Miss Collins. I have a ton of patty paper. What we're doing here is we're going to take this patty paper and we want to trace 2 things. We want to trace our center of dilation, which is going to be right here. And I will let you know that mechanical pencils do not work very well on this paper. You're going to want to use either a very, very thin felt tip pen, or you're going to want to use a regular pencil. All you need to do, don't worry about tracing the entire axis, both of them. Just trace that origin. And then you're going to trace your original point, and my suggestion is label it. Let me pause. I got to get a different pen. All right, let me try this again. There we go. See, I'm just using a regular felt tip pen, and this works a lot better. Please label the point as well, because if you have more than one point and you're rotating, you need to know what to label as. Now we're going 180. We need to remember 180 is 2 quadrants, so we need 2 complete turns. So watch my patty paper and watch the X and the Y axes right here. Okay, with that plus sign to make, hold that. In this case, you really don't have to hold it in place, but you want to turn 1, that's 90 degrees. Hey, look, guys, there's where A prime is. That's 90 degrees counterclockwise. Rotate it a second time, line it up perfectly, and you can see through where you're going to be at. The next A is now going to be at +3, -2. So we can go over here and we could say, okay, +3, -2. And now we can remove that and we can go to that +3, -2. We're going to label this double prime. What that means, because we already have a prime on here, we're going to go ahead and put another one on here. And if you want to, you can put a little second apostrophe there, meaning double prime. And then this one's going to be your triple prime. So it'll be the third one. So that's your rotation. Or, like we said, you just change the sign of both of them. Okay, put -3 went to positive, +2 went to negative. Now with your 270, again, we're taking a look over here at our rules. And our rules told us that with 270 counterclockwise, we're going to switch them and change the x coordinate. So we have y, -x. Practice the patty paper if you would like to. Or we could just take these two, take the 2 and 3, switch them. Which one's going the opposite? X. So we're that -3, that's the x, is going to turn to a +3 and move to the y location. Y is just going to move over. So we're going to be at +2, +3, and we'll label that A triple prime. Next, we're going to go ahead and take a look at all 4 of these. They have their, they've got the quadrants already there, and we are looking at 90 degrees counterclockwise. So this is going to be our rule. Look on the other page, your x, y, or, I mean, honestly, you can just look up here, 90 degrees counterclockwise, -y, +x. I labeled all of them because I need to know what's where. 90 degrees counterclockwise, opposite of the clock. We line up that plus sign right there. And we can see where all of our coordinates are going to be. Now, because this is smaller than the other one, it might be a little harder to see through the paper. That's why applying the rule is always a good idea. So each one of these, we are going to take the x and y and switch them, and we're changing that y's coordinate. So here, 3 and 6, y needs to turn to a -6 and move into the x's location. X just needs to go to the y's location. So we have -6, +3. So here's going to be your A prime. B, switch them, but that 8 needs to turn to negative because the y needs to go to the opposite sign. So we have -8, 5. Go to -8 and +5. There's our B prime. Right? C and C prime. The 6 is going to change to a negative because the y switches signs. So we have, and they're going to switch places. -6, +5. -6 and +5. There is your C prime. And again, with D and D prime, your y coordinate is going to change to a -3 and move to x's spot. X is simply just going to move over. -3, +5, there's D prime. Make sure that you're connecting these so that you can see that all it is done as rotated. It's okay. It hasn't flipped over or anything of that nature. The last one, we are going to see how many degrees. So we're going to test out, look at the coordinates and say, okay, how many degrees did it change? No graph or anything. So we're going to take a look at in, at 2 and 11, and in prime at 11, -2. We're going to see here that the x and the y's changed. Okay, so here, x and y switched. And we're also going to see here which coordinate changed, which coordinate changed. Now, be careful. It needs to be whatever was in the pre-image point. Okay, so now in our image, we see that the -2 is in the y coordinate, but it started off as the x. Always go back to your pre-image in and say which one changed, the 2 changed. That is in the x coordinate spot. So your x coordinate, change signs, giving us xy was created as your x change, so your y is in your x spot and your x becomes a -x in the rule. And if we look at our rules, whether it's up top or whether it's on the previous page, we're going to see that y -x is right here at 270 degrees counterclockwise. CCW, or honestly, like we discussed on the last page, if you don't put CCW, it's automatically counterclockwise. So this is your rotations about the origin. Again, I've got other videos from previous years you can watch, or if you just search on PHS, as in Peyto High School is where I came from, PHS Collins, Collins, and just search in rotations. Got some other videos, or just search on YouTube.